didn't know anything wrong. You know that. But somehow, you're the one sitting there feeling terrible. You're replaying the conversation in your head, trying to figure out what you said, what you did, why things feel so heavy right now. And the other person? They haven't said a single word. Not one. No accusation, no argument, no raised voice. Just silence. A look. Maybe they turned away a little too slowly. Maybe they went quiet a little too suddenly. And somehow, that was enough. Enough to make you feel like you did something unforgivable. This isn't an accident, and it isn't your imagination. This is a very specific type of person. And today, we're going to get inside their mind. We've all met this person at some point. Maybe it's someone in your family. Maybe it's a close friend. Maybe it's someone you loved deeply, or still do. On the surface, they seem calm, composed, almost too composed. They never yell, they never throw words at you like weapons. They don't need to, because they've figured out something far more powerful than words. They've figured out that silence, the right kind of silence, can make a person collapse from the inside. A sigh at the wrong moment. Eyes that look just slightly disappointed. A smile that fades a half second too soon. These are not accidents. These are tools. And if you've ever been around someone like this, you already know exactly how effective those tools are. Because somehow, every time something goes wrong, you end up apologizing, even when you have absolutely nothing to apologize for. So who is this person really? Why do they do this? And how does their mind actually work? Let's get into it. The first thing you need to understand is this. This person is not necessarily evil. Most of them don't sit down and think, okay, how do I make this person feel terrible today? It's much more subtle than that. And in many ways, that makes it more dangerous. What's actually happening is deeply rooted in how they learn to communicate, or more accurately, how they learn to not communicate. Somewhere along the way, this person discovered that expressing emotions directly was either unsafe or ineffective. Maybe they grew up in an environment where saying, "I'm hurt," was seen as weakness. Maybe every time they expressed something directly, it was dismissed or ignored. So they adapted. They found a different language, a silent one. And now, instead of saying, "That hurt me," they go quiet. Instead of saying, "I'm upset," they withdraw. Instead of saying, "I need something from you," they make you feel the absence of their warmth until you come looking for it. This is called passive emotional signaling, and the person doing it has often become so good at it, they don't even realize they're doing it anymore. It's become their default, their natural response. The sigh isn't calculated. The look isn't rehearsed. It's just who they've become. But here's what makes it so psychologically powerful. When someone attacks you with words, you can defend yourself. You can respond. You have something concrete to push back against. But when someone just looks at you a certain way, when they just go quiet, what do you even do with that? You can't argue with a sigh. You can't defend yourself against silence. There's nothing to grab onto. So instead, your brain does something very predictable. It starts filling in the blanks. And this is where it gets really interesting. Your brain hates uncertainty, genuinely hates it. When something feels emotionally off, but there's no explanation, your mind will create one. And almost always, the explanation your brain creates puts the blame on you. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe I was too much. Maybe I should have handled that differently. None of these thoughts were put there by the other person directly. Your own mind put them there. But the other person's silence, their expression, their withdrawal, that was the trigger. They pulled the trigger. Your brain did the rest of the work. That's why this is so effective. And that's why it's so hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. Because technically, they didn't do anything. Now let's talk about the different types of people who do this. Because not everyone who uses silence as emotional communication is the same. The first type is the wounded communicator. This is the person we talked about earlier. They learned silence as a survival tool. They're not malicious. They're just stuck in a pattern they never learned to break. They genuinely feel hurt. They just have no healthy way to express it. So they leak it through their body language, through their energy, through what they don't say. Being around them is exhausting, not because they're cruel, but because you're constantly trying to read a book that has no words. The second type is more calculated. This person has learned, consciously or not, that emotional withdrawal gets results. Every time they go cold, people come running. Every time they give the silent treatment, someone apologizes. Every time they look disappointed, someone changes their behavior. They've been rewarded for this pattern over and over again, so it got stronger. This type of person often has traits connected to emotional control and manipulation, not always intentional, but consistent. And the really telling sign with this type? The guilt you feel around them is never resolved. You apologize, and somehow it's never quite enough. You change your behavior, and somehow there's always something new to feel guilty about. Because the goal was never resolution. The goal was control. The third type, and this one might surprise you, is you, or someone you'd never expect. Sometimes the most caring, empathetic, loving people do this without realizing it. Because they care so deeply and feel so much that when they're hurt, their entire energy shifts. They don't mean to make you feel guilty. They're just overwhelmed. But the effect is the same. Their silence speaks. Their distance communicates. Their sadness fills the room. And the people who love them feel it immediately. Here's what I want to leave you with. The most powerful communication doesn't always come from words. Sometimes it comes from what's left unsaid. From a look that lasts a second too long. From a warmth that suddenly disappears. And if you've spent a lot of your life feeling guilty, without always knowing why, it might be worth asking yourself, who taught you that their silence was your fault? Because that question, that one right there, might be the most important thing you think about today. If something in this video felt familiar, sit with that feeling. That's your mind trying to tell you something.